Brahmachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Nandana Braja Jaram Nandana Braja Jaram Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jaya Radha Madhava Sundari Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai, Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ki Jai, Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Namo Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nastaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 3, the appearance of Shukadev Goswami. Adhyaiva Rajyam Balamrita Kosham Prakopita Brahma Kulana Lone Dahatvavadrasya punarname bhut.
Dahatvavadrasya punarname bhut.
Papi yasidir dvijadeva gopya.
Papi yasidir dvijadeva gopya.
Adyaiva rajyam balam riddha kosham.
Adyaiva rajyam balam riddha kosham.
Prakopita brahma kulana lome.
Prakopita brahma kulana lome.
Dahatvavadrasya punarname bhut.
Dahatvavadrasya punarname bhut.
Papi yasidir dvijadeva gopya.
Papi yasidir dvijadeva gopya.
Adyaiva rajyam balam riddha kosham.
Prakopita brahma kulana lome. Dahatvavadrasya punarname bhut. Papi yasidir dvijadeva gopya. Adyaiva rajyam balam riddha kosham.
Adyaiva rajyam balam riddha kosham.
Prakopita brahma kulana lome.
Prakopita brahma kulana lome.
Dahatvavadrasya punarname bhut.
Dahatvavadrasya punarname bhut.
Papi yasidir dvijadeva gopya.
Papi yasidir dvijadeva gopya.
Adyaiva rajyam balam riddha kosham.
Adyaiva rajyam balam riddha kosham.
Prakopita brahma kulana lome.
Prakopita brahma kulana lome.
Dahatvavadrasya punarname bhut.
Dahatvavadrasya punarname bhut.
Yasidir dvijadeva gopya.
Papi yasidir dvijadeva gopya. Adya. This day, Eva, on the very Rajyam, kingdom, Balamrida, strength and riches, Kosham, treasury, Prakopita, ignited by Brahmakula, by the Brahmin community, Alala, fire, Medahatu, let it burn me, Abhadrasya, inauspiciousness, Puna, again, Na, not, may, unto me, Abut, may occur, Papi yasi, sinful, the intelligence, Dvija, Brahmanas, Deva, the Supreme Lord, Govya, and the cows. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. I am uncivilized and sinful due to my neglect of Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection. Therefore, I wish that my kingdom, strength, and riches burn up immediately by the fire of the Brahman's wrath, so that in the future I may not be guided by such inauspicious attitudes. Purport. Progressive human civilization is based on Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and protection of cows. All economic development of the state by trade, commerce, agriculture, and industries must be fully utilized in relation to the above principles. Otherwise, all so-called economic development becomes a source of degradation. Cow protection means feeding the Brahminical culture, which leads towards God consciousness, and thus perfection of human civilization is achieved. The age of Kali aims at killing the higher principles of life, and although Maharaj Parikshit strongly resisted the domination of the personality of Kali within the world, the influence of the age of Kali came at an opportune moment, and even a strong king like Maharaj Parikshit was induced to disregard the Brahminical culture due to a slight provocation of hunger and thirst. Maharaj Parikshit lamented the accidental incident, and he desired that all his kingdom, strength, and accumulation of wealth would be burned up for not being engaged in Brahminical culture, etc. where wealth and strength are not engaged in the advancement of Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection, the state and home are surely doomed by providence. I'm going to read that again, sorry. Where wealth and strength are not engaged in the advancement of Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection, the state and home are surely doomed by providence. If we want peace and prosperity in the world, we should take lessons from this verse. Every state and every home must endeavor to advance the cause of Brahminical culture for self-purification, God consciousness for self-realization, and cow protection for getting sufficient milk and the best food to continue a perfect civilization. Om Ajnanatirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was thinking that it can be a blessing to not be very qualified. Of course, it can be a blessing to be very qualified as well, if it's used in Krishna's service. But when there's some lack of qualification, there's the possibility of feeling that utter dependence on Krishna. More good. It's like I'm supposed to give class, and I read the verse, I read the purport, and nothing was coming to mind, you know? That's Krishna. Sometimes a lot of thoughts come into the mind, a lot of clear ideas, an outline of what I want to say, examples, stories, analogies, whatever. And sometimes nothing comes into the brain. So what do? You just say, Krishna, I don't know. Help me out here. I want to try to do some seva here. So I'm totally dependent on your mercy. We experience that when we go on book distribution. When we go on book distribution, it's such a challenging seva. You're trying to give books to people in the Kali Yuga, and how many people are interested? Not so many people are interested in terms of like their shopping list. People don't, here's my shopping list. I think I want to get a book about how to become a lover of God, surrender to God, renounce material existence, live a life of austerity. No one's got that on their shopping list, practically speaking. So we're out there and we're trying to distribute something which, at least on the surface, doesn't have so much interest for people. Of course, internally, as George Harrison shared, everyone is looking for Krishna because everyone's looking for pure love. But at least superficially, people in their minds, typically people are looking for something else. They want sense gratification. And this doesn't exactly look like sense gratification to them. It's the opposite reason why they came to the material world. Everyone has come to the material world to take Krishna's position, to enjoy, to be the enjoyer, to be the master, to be the Lord. And here's a book which is in your face. You're not that. You're something totally different. You're the opposite of what you're thinking you are. One time, Narataka Gopal was a great Vaishnavi, great book distributor. She was distributing books in Miami Airport. She gave a book to someone. And she's so nice that the man said, yeah, sure, I'll take a book and give a donation. He walked away. He started reading the book. And he came back and he said, no, I don't want your book, but you can keep the donation. I'm not interested. Said, really? What aren't you interested in? He had read in the book, Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim, Kavitam Va Jagadish. I don't want women. I don't want wealth. I don't want followers. So he said, I'm not interested. You please keep the book and keep the donation. So we have to pray to Krishna. We have to be in a state of utter dependence on Krishna. That's Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means to be always in a state of complete dependence on Krishna. Because if we understand where we are, we're in the material world. The insurmountable material energy Not possible to cross over. And there's so many examples from the Shastras of people who were so qualified, so advanced, so powerful, so intelligent, and they became overwhelmed. What to speak of everyone else? So this, to some degree, lack of qualification, it can be a blessing, because then we have that feeling of Krishna. I don't know how I'm going to do anything. I don't have no idea how I'm going to overcome my inner challenges. It's like when I first joined the movement, my guru used to call me, what did he call me, Vijay Guru? Tar baby, because my name was Tarek and then Tara. He used to call me Tar baby. So stuck to the material world, stuck. And sometimes cleaning the heart feels like it's cleaning coals. Okay, maybe I'm making some progress, but then we see that there's still these nasty desires in the heart. So what do? In bhakti yoga? We're not jnanis, we're not mystic yogis. The mystic yogis, they go into seclusion and they practice their eightfold process of Ashtanga yoga. And through that intense discipline, they eventually purify themselves by shutting out all the sense objects, by controlling the mind. No one can do that. It's irrelevant nowadays. Irrelevant. You find a few mystic yogis in the mountains. Jnana yoga, good luck. Jnana yoga is artificial. The path of jnana. The soul wants to appreciate things, to enjoy beauty, to enjoy interaction with others, to engage the senses. By nature, we want to do these things. So the jnana process says, no, you give up all those things. You live a very dry life. And in this way, through philosophical, through speculation, through understanding what is reality, what is illusion, you try to extricate yourself from material existence. Not a practical process, but the process of bhakti. Finally, there is a practice, but at the heart of the practice is a mood of utter dependence on Krishna. Ayinanda tanuja kinkaram. My dear Lord, I've fallen into this material existence. You please pick me up and you place me as an atom at your lotus feet. This is at the core of bhakti. And even the very highly qualified devotees, the most qualified, the devotees who are the most intelligent, the most powerful, who have all of the even what appears to be material qualifications. But if you dig into their heart, you'll find this utter dependence on Krishna. Just like when Prabhupada landed in America, he was faced with a, you could say, impossible task. And he said it. He said, I don't know why you brought me. I don't know why you brought me here, my Lord. You know, the population here is completely covered by the modes of passion and ignorance. How will they understand the most sublime message of the Bhagavatam? How will they appreciate the mellows of devotional service? So, in a mood of utter helplessness and dependence, Prabhupada was calling out to Krishna. So, sometimes when someone is very qualified, what do they say? I've got it. I've got it under control. No problem. And this attitude even afflicts the demigods, even the highly qualified demigods. They think, I've got it going on, you know. Their intelligence is clear, their powers are incredible, and therefore they become bewildered. They forget their position as humble, tiny servants of Krishna, totally dependent on Krishna. So Krishna, he helps us to come to that point of utter dependence. And that's what's required, to cross over the internal obstacles in the heart, which seem insurmountable. So here, King Parikshit is deeply lamenting. He's deeply lamenting for something which was a minor mistake. It was a minor mistake. It was an accident, really, in a moment of, in a moment of frustration, which was also induced by Yogamaya. He committed some slight offense, Prabhupada says, but he lamented so much because he thought, now I've done something which is displeasing to Krishna. And what does he say? Let my kingdom, my strength, and my riches, let them all burn up immediately. And here was a person who had everything. He was in charge of the kingdom. He was adored by the citizens. He had tons of strength. He had as much wealth as one can imagine. we think there's wealthy people nowadays. No, the wealthiest people nowadays are paupers compared to these great emperors. They had all the wealth at their disposal. But he thought, I've displeased Krishna, so let it all burn out. There's nothing more valuable for me than pleasing Krishna. Why? Because I have undermined the most important things in human civilization, which is Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection. I've undermined these things. So human civilization is guided by the Brahmins. That's the head. The Brahmins have a clear vision of how things should operate. And based on their clear vision, their clear understanding, which is coming from Shastra, the rest of society is organized. And the problem in Kali Yuga is that there's no Brahmins. Well, now there's Brahmins, but typically the Brahmins are an endangered species. And the people that were claiming to be Brahmins, typically they were corrupted people that were making the claim just based on birthright. Sometimes, I remember we went to a restaurant in Nepal. We were in Pokhara. The owner of the restaurant said, yes, oh, you are Hare Krishna. I am Brahmin. Huh? I'm a Brahmin. So does he have any of the qualities of a Brahmin? Shamo Dhamma Tapashaucham Shantir Arjavam Evacha Jnana Vijnanam Ashtikyam Brahma Karma Svabhavajam. Probably doesn't have those qualities, or he certainly doesn't have the full range of those qualities. And he's not working as a Brahmin either. So these are actually the identifying marks of a Brahmin: peacefulness, tolerance, self-control, austerity, knowledge, wisdom. Not just knowledge, some book knowledge, but some realization of the difference between matter and spirit. Some realization of the absolute truth. Ashtikyam means the understanding that the Supreme is there. God is there. And therefore the Brahmins, they don't depend on anyone. They don't depend on anyone because they know there's one person, Ashtikyam. They have that conviction. There's one Supreme Being who's maintaining all living entities. So they don't think I'm being maintained by this person or that person. I'm obliged. No, they speak the truth freely because they know Krishna's my maintainer. They have that firm conviction. And so they guide human society. They guide the Kshatriyas, how to conduct the affairs of the state. Otherwise, the Kshatriyas, ruled by the mode of passion, they have the tendency to become corrupted. But because the culture was there, the training was there, that the Kshatriyas were submissive to the Brahmins. You please give me guidance here. I'm not so clear on what needs to be done next. And then the Brahmin, with their clear intelligence, they're not entangled in the passions of the world. They're not entangled in the politics of the world. They're not entangled in diplomacy. They're able to give objective advice, objective, clear, progressive advice to the Kshatriyas. But nowadays, the Brahmin class, so-called Brahmin class, the intellectual class, they're totally corrupted. They don't have good habits. So you have the intellectual class and you have the priestly class. And what is the intellectual class propagating? What are they putting out into society? Ideas of God consciousness and the importance of spiritual elevation? No, typically they're suggesting the opposite. They're propagating an atheistic view of life. The universe came about by chance. Straight from the Bhagavad Gita, right? The demoniac think that everything has happened by chance. There's no God in control. So this is the intellectual class, to a large degree, are propagating these ideas that the universe has miraculously, really, miraculously come about by chance. Amazing. It requires such a level of faith to believe such a notion. And life comes from matter. And there's no life after death. This is at the heart of their teachings. Therefore, Prabhupada was constantly hammering away at the materialistic scientists. And he found it to be so important that we have a class of devotees who are trained in science and who can combat these materialistic ideas. And therefore, he said that this branch of ISKCON, this branch of the Hare Krishna movement should be very well funded. Almost practically says no limit on the funds that should be provided for the scientific preaching to combat those ideas. So there's a lot of work to be done there. So this is the so-called Brahminical class. In addition to that, there's the priestly class. And how are they doing? The priestly class in general, not so good. Prabhupada noted that there was a hospital which was specializing in curing alcoholism. And who were the people that were in the hospital?
Priests.
A lot of priests. I think it's like thousands of priests were in the hospital. How many? 5,000 priests were in the hospital. The hospital to cure alcoholism. So these are the people that are supposed to be setting the example for society, who are supposed to be the shining light. Yad yad achari shri shri. This is how you should live, everyone, right? And so how should we live? We should end up as alcoholics and end up in a hospital. So not very impressive. And they don't even understand the rudiments, the fundamentals of Dharma. Dharma is standing on 4 legs: austerity, truthfulness, cleanliness, and mercy. Therefore, Prabhupada was talking to Cardinal Danalu, and Prabhupada was just staying on one point. One point. Your teacher said, "Thou shalt not kill." Why are you killing? Why are you opening up slaughterhouses? Okay, let us talk of something higher. Prabhupada wouldn't go higher. What do you mean higher? You haven't understood the most basic idea. You're a Christian. You're supposed to be following your master. It's like a common sense thing. A spiritual person unnecessarily giving pain to other living entities? How will someone who's God conscious, how can someone do that? Who's God conscious? That's an impossibility. And now the modern day Christians as well. We're not trying to bash religion. We're just speaking, who the so-called leaders, how they're conducting themselves and what they're teaching. It's one thing to say, yes, I know it's wrong. I have a real challenge with it. Okay, people will respect that. I know it's wrong. I have a real challenge with it. I'm not there yet. I'm working on it, whatever. That's fine. But to propagate the idea that it's okay, it's positively okay to cause unlimited pain, suffering, torture to other living entities, and you think you're going to become an enlightened soul? In some Christian circles, you know how they refer to vegetarians? Tofu boy. That's how they refer to them. Tofu boy. It's a derogatory term. Tofu boy. Like, yeah, this is some guy who's into some crystals and walking around with sandals and socks and has some fairy ideas about life. Tofu boy. So unless that class of people is established, unless there's a Brahminical class to guide society, then society will be in shambles. And therefore, there's no Kshatriya class either. The so-called Kshatriya class, who are they? They're people who have been bought up by the mercantile class, yes? If you look at all the politicians, they're all on the payroll. Practically cent per cent. When you find someone amidst the politicians who's not on the payroll, it's such a shock. People are like, it's such an outstanding, anomaly. Is that okay to say? Yeah, it's something which is so extraordinary. Here's a person who's not on the payroll. The payroll of who? The payroll of the arms industry, yeah. The payroll of the pharmaceutical industry, the payroll of the fossil fuel industry. And so all of their policies are being directed by the mercantile class. And who is the mercantile class? The mercantile class are people who are conducted by the modes of passion and ignorance. Mode of passion and ignorance means there's going to be a good, healthy helping of greed in the consciousness. So they have to be controlled. If someone is possessed by greed, then that's their guiding principle. Well, they're going to sell anything to anyone, regardless of the consequences. If the mercantile class is allowed to reign free and do whatever they want, what's the result going to be? The result is going to be that they're going to pollute the air, they're going to pollute the water, they're going to pollute people's minds. Why? For the sake of profit, nothing else. I was in Sikkim. I was taking a group of students when I was in Mayapur to Sikkim, and I met this nice Indian gentleman, and we had a conversation and said, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "I'm a farmer. I own some farms." I said, "Oh, that's nuts." He said, "Yeah, but I have a great burden of guilt." I said, "What's that? What's the burden of guilt?" "Well, I use certain pesticides in my farming, and I know that these pesticides are poisonous. And the result of these pesticides is that they corrode the bones in people's bodies. So every time I see an old lady, and sometimes you see it, you see the old lady walking like that with her back hunched over, and she's walking like all the bones have been stiffened up. He says, I know that's because of me. So I tried to go organic. I just thought I have to stop this. And he was making good money. I have to stop this. So he tried to stop it, and his family gave him such a hard time, saying, that less profit for us. You're not going to do this. So he did it for 1 year, maybe a year and a half, and then he abandoned it. He submitted to the principle of we have to make more money. So in the ideal system, the Kshatriyas just won't allow it. Just forget it. You're not going to use this poison and poison people's bodies. The Kshatriyas have a strict control on what the mercantile class can and cannot be. Otherwise, they'll sell poison to children. That's no exaggeration. They calculate very, very meticulously, very carefully. What's the maximum profit we can get? We've got this product, cigarettes. We've got a product, cigarettes, right? And what we have to do is we have to catch people when they're young. Why? Because then we've got a lifelong addict. And in this way, we maximize our profits. So what do? They hire some psychologist, some corrupt psychologist who's supposed to be helping people, who's supposed to be relieving people of suffering. And they say, we want to sell our product to everyone, including children. Say, how do we do it? Oh, here's the advertising you need to use in order to hook people. So that's what they do. Would the Kshatriyas ever allow it? Never. The Kshatriyas would never allow. Here's the products that you're allowed to sell. Here's the products you're positively forbidden from selling. So the Kshatriyas would very strictly regulate, control the activities of the mercantile class. And that's mentioned here in this purport. We will read it. Prabhupada says, all economic development of the state by trade, commerce, agriculture, and industries must be fully utilized in relation to the above principles. Otherwise, all so-called economic development becomes a source of degradation. So that's modern society. Modern society means that poison is being spread throughout society, and people by and large are innocent, and they're just ingesting the poison. When we were growing up, how many channels were there on the television? Two, three, four, a few channels. So there wasn't, and we called it, we called it the boob tube, because it made you into a dummy, right? And there was like 4 channels, right? To confuse our mind, or just to give us some shallow entertainment, or distract us from life, whatever. But nowadays, people have access to all the poison of the world. Children have access to all the poison of the world. It's a mystery that anyone comes out alive. So the Hare Krishna movement, our whole purpose is to combat this, is to, first of all, establish a class of people who are actually God conscious, who are exemplifying these qualities, these Brahminical qualities, showing the example to human society, and directing the human civilization. Here's how to live. It's not some great mystery. It's not some inexplicable thing. It's not some ambiguous idea of how to practice spiritual life. There's a very systematic approach to transforming consciousness. And it all starts with association with devotees. Because in the association of devotees, what's going to be happening? Spiritual sound vibration is going to be churning. And that spiritual sound vibration, that changes everything. That's why Prabhupada brought the Bhagavatam to the West. He brought it because he knew by this sound vibration, consciousness will be purified. And when consciousness is purified, everything becomes auspicious, individually and collectively. So that's our process. We have to somehow or other propagate spiritual sound vibration. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and the holy names of the Lord. And it's critical, crucial, that people have somehow or other a daily connection, right? Sometimes people have the opportunity to hear something once a week, They come to a class on Sunday and they hear something and they become enriched and their vision of life becomes a little bit more clear. And then they've got 6 days where, something's going inside their ears, something's corrupting their intelligence, right? And then once again, one more time a week, there's a little bit of clearing. But if people have the opportunity to hear on a daily basis, then their lives will change. Just like with the wisdom of the sages, they used to have the podcast daily. They did it from 2020 up until like 4 months ago. Daily podcast. Sometimes it wasn't daily because they would be traveling or something, but that was the schedule. Daily podcast. And what was the daily podcast? It was Srimad Bhagavatam, but presented in a way which was digestible for people. And what was the result? People were tuning in because it was interesting, relevant, and they were experiencing the benefits. And what was the result? People became devotees. People that we thought this type of person probably won't ever become a devotee. We have our stereotypical idea who becomes a devotee. What's the age that we typically expect someone to become a devotee at? Anyone want to throw out a number?
20.
Yeah, exactly. Like in the 20s, right? I started practicing bhakti when I was 21. How about you?
Yeah, I got my first book at 21.
21. You're
23.
23.
18.
18.
29.
29. Vijay Prabhu.
22.
22. That's our impression. But wisdom of the sages was reaching out to people 40s and 50s. And why was their life transformed? People that were already, solidified in mature life. Of course, they'd had more life experience. They'd had a lot of disappointments. And very typically, when someone goes through a life of disappointments, they just take shelter in intoxication and somehow try to escape all the pain. But then this alternative was offered to them, the daily hearing and chanting. And it transformed them and they became devotees and their vision of life became clear. So this is critical somehow or other. We have to get people to the point of regular hearing and chanting in reading groups, in daily classes, even if it's 15 minutes or 30 minutes. So this is our mission, and it's our mission for ourselves so that we are enriched and we are proper vessels and proper agents of our Guru and Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to effect change in society. Because people are allergic to hypocrisy. People are allergic just to some lofty ideas. People need to see living examples. People need to see someone who's exhibiting some higher consciousness and who's exhibiting the qualities that we expect of saintly people. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Any questions or reflections, comments? Yes, Prabhu.
That was such an ecstatic and inspiring class. Thank you for hearing me feel enlightened about it. And I was just thinking of the point of daily hearing. Maybe you can give some suggestions on how that could be practically done. Obviously, there's the podcast, but how much of daily hearing? What is the time limit? Could it be as easy as just sending someone like a quote, or just maybe you can give some ideas, because I was very attracted to that point of daily contact.
Yeah, we have to consider who we're speaking to, what their capacity is, how much level of interest there is, and we have to offer people the opportunity, and that opportunity can be, hey, I've got this, daily reading that I'm doing. It has to be very, customized based on who it is. Otherwise, if you just read anything from the scriptures, you might come across some stuff which can like blow people's minds and like, oh, wait a minute here, what's going on here? And then there's a lot of explaining to do. One thing is you can tune people into the podcast, Wisdom of the Sages podcast. They've already got it figured out. They've got, a powerful formula, which is both entertaining, it's funny, it's relevant to people's lives, and it's kind of addictive. And it's a package which is very well put together. You've got a little bit of banter, a little back and forth, just light stuff. And then you've got a nugget of wisdom, which is coming from so many sources. Today we're quoting Socrates. Today we're quoting, Marcus Aurelius. Today we're quoting Yoda from from Star Wars, but there's a nugget of wisdom that they speak about, and then they go into the Bhagavatam, and the way they present the Bhagavatam is it's something which is people find to be very digestible, relevant, interesting. So that's one thing we can do. And then if we're in touch with people, what you just said, we can't underestimate the power of dropping a relevant quote, a relevant nugget of profound wisdom in the WhatsApp group. People read it and they've got like their direction for the day. They've got something to contemplate, right? And it might be super relevant to their life. We should be cautious, conscious to do that. Here's something that's super relevant to your life. You know, something which can just nudge them towards a different way of looking at the world, and a different way of looking at their own experiences, and a different way of how I want to interact with others. Well, these things can be life-changing, and it has a cumulative effect. So that's a great idea. So somehow or other, give them something on a daily basis.
It's a nice principle.
Yeah. And it might be, what we have in our stage groups is we meet once a week, 1.5 hours. And then we have the nectar, daily nectar, drop of daily nectar, right? So someone will drop a bhajan onto the WhatsApp group. Someone will drop a meme. Someone will drop a quote. Someone will drop a purport. And everyone reads it and they feel like, yeah, this is nice. This is something that's feeding me.
Very nice.
Yes.
Wisdom of the Sages listener, and I understand that they finished the Bhagavatam. I haven't listened to all the episodes. I was just wondering, what are they going to do next? Are they going to start over again, or
They're on the 10th canto now.
oh, that's okay.
10th canto. So they've still got a long way to go.
Okay.
11th and 12th cantos still coming. And then they'll start again.
Okay.
I mean, that's the theory. That's the plan. Thank you all so much for kind attention and association.
Well, if you live here, we're all gonna be jumping in ecstasy on a daily basis. And it's just, I feel so encouraged.
It blesses me that I come back in the spring and spend some
Yeah,
extended time.
we're all praying to Sri.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Very
We
quick.
have so much to gain from you.
I'm so grateful for such nice association. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to selling my first set of Bhagavatams. May that day come. Shishigorni, if you allow.
I really like the point you mentioned that Brahmanas depend on Krishna, so they can give clear and objective advice.
Mm.
So we see that Prabhupada, when he came, he engaged all his disciples in book distribution. He wanted everybody to go out. So in book distribution, we can see that they are actually engaged in Brahminical activity because they don't know who is going to come for buying these books. As you said, that's not on their shopping list. Practically no one has this on their shopping list, but they are just depending on Krishna.
Mm.
So they were just maintaining themselves based on distribution. The whole movement, as the Guru Maharaj writes in our family business, it was built by selling Krishna books. Of course, they made Beatles devotees and Krishna who became so famous. So they were just depending on Krishna. That is so amazing. That's real Brahmanas. Prabhupada wanted to have these Brahmanas, just
Yeah.
depending on Krishna.
That's nice. It's perfect for medical activity. Cool.
I also just want to share an anecdote from yesterday about how transcendental book distribution is, because you were mentioning how challenging it is to go out. Yesterday, we went to a Greek restaurant, and the guy didn't give us a monetary donation. He gave us a donation of a gift card, which is completely useless for us.
Mm.
So let's see, Prabhu and I were speaking about it. It's like, what are we going to do? We're like, I guess we're going to try selling it. You know, we were all going and distributing books, and then we were also trying to sell the gift card. The people are buying books, but they didn't want the gift card. The gift card is like, in one sense, more relevant to like the pattern of their life than the books.
It depends on how much is on the gift.
$50. Or if
And,
you-
I was telling people, you can get whatever you want for it, you know.
But like-
$50, but you want to give like 30. And then like, I don't know. Some people would say, I don't like that restaurant. I was surprised.
The perfection of book distribution is when the person looks at the devotee and thinks, I don't know what the book is. Maybe I do, but I want what you have. I want that.
Yeah.
Because they never saw someone who was happy like that.
Yesterday, we went
That's the
into,
perfection.
was it like a Mexican restaurant or I don't even know what it was, but we walked in and no one was talking to us. And then the manager was on the phone and then she was on the phone practically the whole time we were there. She said, just wait. And when she got off the phone, she goes, look, I like your guys' what did she say?
I love your energy.
I love your energy.
Yeah.
And then we just asked for a donation and she kind of scrummaged around and got it, but we didn't even say anything to her. We were just standing there for like.
She's I think once again, like her coworker, or like I think she was managing them. And
Yeah,
they
yeah.
all looking at her, and she was like, "No, I know what's happening. I got this under control." And then she just like she talked to us and gave a donation and got some books.
We didn't even explain the books practice. We were just standing there.
Yeah, that's the perfection. When we're-
Jim, so I Krishna, he said, "This is who I want to be."
Yeah,
So he became.
yeah, that's it. That's it. We'll just have to channel Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is all attractive. You know, so you just, please, Krishna, let me be your instrument. Please, I want to be your pure instrument. That's it. That's our prayer. Pure instrument. And that's very attractive for people.
I think we should all offer a prayer to Sri Sri Radharani Mohan, praying that. My dear Sri Sri Radharani Mohan, if you so desire, please bring Tara Prabhu back at ISV to be in our association and to enliven us through his association so we can learn how to be better instruments in our service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Everyone's a good this say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I agree with the first part. I would love to come back.
Sri Sara Prabhu ki
Srila Prabhupada ki
Thank you, dear devotees, for joining.